Dresden is one of those cities where beauty and tragedy are impossible to separate. At first glance, it can look like a postcard version of old Europe: domes, palaces, river views, opera houses, and carefully restored squares glowing in pale stone. But Dresden is not simply a pretty historic city. It is a place that has been built, destroyed, remembered, debated, and rebuilt. Its story is about royal power, artistic ambition, cultural identity, war, memory, and modern reinvention. Today, Dresden is the capital of Saxony, a major city in eastern Germany, and one of the country's most visited destinations. But its importance is much older than modern tourism. For centuries, it served as a residence of Saxon rulers who wanted their capital to compete with the great courts of Europe. That ambition gave Dresden its museums, churches, collections, and architectural splendor. Yet the city also became internationally known because of the devastating bombing near the end of the Second World War, when much of its historic center was destroyed. To understand Dresden, you have to see both sides: the city of art and the city of ruins, the royal capital and the modern technology hub, the symbol of loss and the symbol of reconstruction. Dresden sits on the river Elbe, one of Central Europe's important waterways. This location shaped the city from the beginning. The Elbe connected Dresden to trade routes, landscapes, and surrounding settlements, while the river valley gave the city a dramatic natural setting. Most of Dresden's population lives in the Elbe Valley, but the city's territory stretches into very different landscapes. To the east, parts of Dresden reach toward the West Lusatian hill country and uplands. To the west, other districts connect with the Ur Mountain foreland and the valleys of rivers such as the Weißeritz and the Lockwitzbach. This mixture of river city, valley settlement, and upland edge helps explain why Dresden feels both urban and scenic. It is not just a dense city squeezed into a small space. It has broad green areas, riverbanks, villas, historic villages absorbed into the city, and nearby countryside that has long made it attractive to residents and visitors. Even the names around Dresden point to older layers of history. The name Dresden, along with many local borough and river names, has Sorbian origins, reminding us that this region was shaped not only by German-speaking powers but also by Slavic communities and cultures. Dresden's identity is therefore not one-dimensional. It is a borderland city in a cultural, geographic, and historical sense. As the capital of Saxony, Dresden became much more than a regional settlement. Its rise was tied to the electors and later kings of Saxony, who used the city as their royal residence. In early modern Europe, a ruler's capital was not just an administrative center. It was a stage. Palaces, churches, art collections, theaters, and ceremonial spaces all communicated power. Dresden's rulers invested heavily in that language of prestige. They filled the city with Baroque and Rococo architecture, created major collections, and attracted artists, craftsmen, musicians, and architects. This is why Dresden became known as a kind of jewel box, a city whose central district seemed packed with carefully designed artistic treasures. That nickname was not accidental. Dresden's historic core was meant to impress. It showed that Saxony was not merely a political territory tucked between larger powers, it was a courtly center with European ambitions. The city also had a connection to Polish monarchy through personal union, adding another layer to its dynastic significance. For visitors today, the result is visible in landmarks like Dresden Castle, the Zwinger, and the Semperoper. These were never isolated monuments. Together, they formed an urban statement. Dresden was a city where political authority and artistic display reinforced each other. One of the best ways to understand Dresden's old identity is through its art collections. The Dresden State Art collections trace their origins to the treasures gathered by Saxon electors from the 16th century onward. These collections were not just private decoration. They were instruments of status, knowledge, and cultural competition. European courts collected paintings, scientific instruments, porcelain, jewels, armor, manuscripts, and curiosities to show refinement and power. Dresden became one of the places where this collecting culture reached an extraordinary level. The city's museums still reflect that courtly world. They preserve the idea that art, science, craftsmanship, and prestige once belonged to the same universe. In Dresden, culture was not an afterthought. It was central to how the city understood itself. The Zwinger, for example, is not only a famous architectural complex, it is also tied to this world of display and collection. Dresden Castle similarly represents layers of political history and cultural preservation. When people call Dresden a cultural city today, they are not simply talking about concerts or galleries. They are pointing to a centuries-long accumulation of objects, buildings, institutions, and rituals that made the city one of Europe's great artistic centers. The Frauenkirche is probably Dresden's most emotionally charged landmark. Built in the 18th century, this Protestant church became one of the defining features of the city skyline. Its great dome gave Dresden a recognizable silhouette and symbolized the city's Baroque confidence. But the Frauenkirche is famous not only because it was built. It is famous because it fell, remained in ruins, and then rose again. During the bombing of Dresden in 1945, the church was destroyed. For decades after the war, its ruins were left in place. They functioned as a memorial, a visible wound in the heart of the city. This mattered because ruins can speak differently from restored buildings. They force people to confront loss without smoothing it over. After German reunification, the Frauenkirche was rebuilt between 1994 and 2005. The reconstruction used surviving stones where possible, combining old darkened fragments with new lighter material. That contrast is important. The church does not pretend nothing happened. Instead, its surface carries the memory of destruction and rebuilding at the same time. For many people, the Frauenkirche became a symbol of reconciliation, resilience, and the difficult question of how a city should remember catastrophe. The bombing of Dresden near the end of the Second World War remains one of the most controversial events in the city's history. American and British air raids destroyed much of the historic city center and killed approximately 25,000 people, most of them civilians. The scale of destruction was immense. Dresden's old center, with its churches, homes, palaces, and cultural landmarks, was turned into a landscape of fire and rubble. The controversy comes partly from timing and symbolism. The bombing happened late in the war, when Nazi Germany was already moving toward defeat, and Dresden was widely associated with culture and architecture rather than with the front line. At the same time, discussing Dresden responsibly means avoiding simplification. The city was part of Nazi Germany, the war had been unleashed by that regime, and Allied bombing campaigns took place within a broader conflict of enormous violence. Dresden became a powerful symbol because it concentrates many moral questions at once: civilian suffering, strategic bombing, propaganda, memory, guilt, and victimhood. This is why the city's destruction has been interpreted, misused, mourned, and debated for decades. Dresden's history demands nuance. It is neither just a victim story nor just a military footnote. It is a warning about what total war does to cities and civilians. After the war, Dresden faced a question that many destroyed European cities had to answer: what should be rebuilt, what should be left as memory, and what should be replaced by something new? Reconstruction was never only technical. It was political and emotional. In Dresden, some historic structures were restored, some ruins remained for decades, and parts of the city were rebuilt under East German socialist planning. This created a layered urban landscape. You can see restored Baroque landmarks, post-war buildings, broad modern spaces, and carefully reconstructed historic squares. After German reunification in 1990, restoration gained new momentum. The rebuilding of the Frauenkirche was the most famous example, but it was part of a broader effort to recover elements of the historic inner city. This process raises an interesting question: when a building is reconstructed decades after destruction, is it old or new? In Dresden, the answer is both. The rebuilt city center is not a simple time machine. It is a modern act of memory, using architecture to reconnect the present with a broken past. That is why Dresden can feel strangely theatrical and deeply moving at once. Its beauty is not untouched beauty. It is repaired beauty. Dresden's modern identity is not limited to memory and tourism. Since German reunification, the city has re-emerged as an educational, political, and economic center. One of its most important institutions is the Dresden University of Technology, or TU Dresden. It is among Germany's largest universities and is part of the German Universities Excellence Initiative. This matters because universities do more than educate students. They attract researchers, create networks, support innovation, and help define the economic future of a region. Dresden's economy has become one of the most dynamic in Germany, especially within Saxony. It is strongly associated with high-tech industries, which is why the region is often called Silicon Saxony. The nickname points to semiconductors, microelectronics, research, and technology-driven growth. This modern Dresden is very different from the image of palaces and old churches, but the two identities are connected by a common theme: concentration of specialized talent. In the past, Dresden attracted artists, architects, and craftsmen serving a royal court. Today, it attracts engineers, scientists, students, and technology firms. The city's future is being built not only in restored squares, but also in labs, campuses, and industrial research clusters. Dresden is also one of Germany's most visited cities, with millions of overnight stays each year. The appeal is easy to understand. Visitors can move from the Frauenkirche to the Neumarkt, from the Zwinger to the Semperoper, from Dresden Castle to the art collections, all within a compact historic core. The Semperoper represents Dresden's musical and theatrical prestige. The Zwinger offers one of the city's most recognizable architectural experiences. Dresden Castle connects visitors to the long history of Saxon rulers. But tourism in Dresden is not just about checking off monuments. The city offers a particular atmosphere, formal, elegant, and sometimes melancholic. Its landmarks invite admiration, but they also invite questions. Why was this rebuilt? What was lost? What is original? What is reconstruction? This gives Dresden a different emotional texture from cities whose historic centers survived largely intact. Visitors are not only looking at old Europe. They are looking at how old Europe was remembered and reconstructed after catastrophe. That makes Dresden especially interesting for people who care about architecture, history, and cultural memory. The city is beautiful, but its beauty comes with an asterisk, and that asterisk is part of its power. Dresden's cultural life is not confined to museums and grand architecture. The city is also known for traditions that connect it to everyday seasonal life, especially the Striezelmarkt. This Christmas market is considered one of the largest in Germany and is often described as the first genuine Christmas market in the world. Whether visitors come for history, food, crafts, lights, or atmosphere, the Striezelmarkt shows another side of Dresden's identity. It is a city of public rituals. Markets, festivals, performances, and seasonal gatherings help transform historic spaces into lived spaces. This is important because a restored city center can risk becoming a museum if people only visit it as spectators. Traditions like the Christmas market make the old city social and active. They connect architecture with smell, sound, movement, and memory. Dresden's reputation as a destination is therefore not only based on stone monuments. It is also based on experiences that repeat every year and create continuity. In a city so marked by rupture, continuity matters. A Christmas market may seem simple compared with war, reconstruction, or royal history, but it helps explain why Dresden feels alive rather than merely preserved. The area around Dresden strengthens the city's appeal. Nearby destinations include Saxon Switzerland National Park, the Ore Mountains, Moritzburg Castle, and Meissen. Each adds another dimension to Dresden's place in the region. Saxon Switzerland is known for dramatic sandstone landscapes, cliffs, and hiking routes, giving visitors a natural counterpoint to the city's urban elegance. The Ore Mountains connect the region to mining history, mountain towns, and craft traditions. Moritzburg Castle offers a classic example of aristocratic landscape architecture and hunting residence culture. Meissen is famous for porcelain, one of the great luxury products associated with Saxony's courtly and artistic history. These nearby places matter because Dresden was never isolated. It functioned as a capital within a wider cultural landscape. The city drew wealth, materials, traditions, and prestige from its surroundings, while also projecting influence back into the region. For modern travelers, this means Dresden can serve as a base for understanding Saxony as a whole. The city gives you the museums and monuments, the surrounding region gives you castles, mountains, river landscapes, and craft heritage. Together, they form a richer picture than Dresden alone. So what makes Dresden important today? It is not just that it has famous landmarks. Many cities have landmarks. Dresden matters because it shows how a city can carry multiple identities at the same time. It is a royal capital shaped by Saxon ambition. It is a Baroque and Rococo showcase. It is a place of extraordinary art collections. It is a city devastated by war and burdened with difficult memory. It is a reconstruction project that asks what authenticity means after destruction. It is a modern university and technology center with strong future prospects. It is a tourist destination, a regional capital, and a gateway to some of Saxony's most distinctive landscapes. That combination makes Dresden unusually layered. If you visit only for beautiful buildings, you will still enjoy it, but you will miss the deeper story. Dresden is really about transformation, from Slavic-rooted settlement to royal residence, from jewel box to rubble, from divided Germany to reunified cultural center, from historic memory to high-tech future. Its skyline may look old, but its meaning is constantly being rebuilt. And that is why Dresden remains one of Germany's most fascinating cities. If you found this helpful, please like this video and subscribe for more explainers.